phone call to him in Bethesda while he was still recovering. There was the mother of Jeremy Herbstreit, a local young man killed while taking heroic action in the Virginia Tech massacre. She wanted to once again thank my father and our family for reaching out to them in their hour of greatest sadness. There was a former player who took a leave of absence to care for a 5-year-old son with terminal brain cancer. He and his wife started getting money through his church from an anonymous donor. Only an accident by a church secretary revealed to him that Joe Paterno was his anonymous monthly benefactor. There were tender moments with an endless line of people. We shed tears together, hugged each other, and drew strength from each other. All hoped we could continue to conjure some of his strength, his indomitable will. Joe Paterno indeed had an indomitable will, with one exception. When his will ran counter to that of his wife and my mother, Sue Paterno. Once while listening to the U2 song, Sometimes You Can't Make It on Your Own, I heard a beautiful lyric. It said, "You're the reason why the opera is in me." I shared that lyric with my dad. He smiled with that same smile you've seen on that picture, and he said, "That's your mother for me. That's your mother for me." Opera, you see, was an analogy he got. Years ago, my father would work late into the summer evening hours, and the sound of opera would gently drift through the night air over to our rooms. My mother quite simply was the reason the opera was in my father's life. Joe Paterno strode the world with a confidence that he had found, met, and married the woman of his dreams. Once in college, I received unsolicited dating advice from my father. Like most 21-year-olds, I thought I already had all the answers. I said, "Dad, you haven't been on a date in like 30 years. What do you know?" He responded with that twinkle in his eye when he knows he's right, and he said, "Hey, I married your mother, didn't I? You cannot argue with that." For my dad, he never doubted my mother. My mother had it all and continues to have it all. He could do his job, and we could share him with Penn State because he knew my mother was in complete command on the home front. Ruskin once wrote, "When love meets skill, expect a masterpiece." The impact of love and skill's collision as husband and wife, as mother and father, in all the pursuits of their life created the masterpiece you see before you today. Their artistry of love and skill became a driving force on this campus, benefiting all aspects of this university. They donated their own money and solicited donations of millions of dollars to benefit the whole university, from buildings to scholarships to endowments. When I started my coaching career at the University of Virginia, I noticed on that campus buildings with all kinds of symbols painted on them, sevens and Z's and all these things. And I was told that these secret society symbols were painted on every building that those societies had helped to build. If we paint Joe and Sue Paterno on every building they helped to raise money for at Penn State, we'll need a lot of paint. Both of their roles were well known to so many people around the world and outside of Penn State. On Monday, when the President of the United States called to offer his condolences, he said, "Mrs. Paterno, it is well known what you and your husband did to help build a great institution. We plan to keep on going," my mother said. "I wouldn't expect anything less," the President said. You get the picture. You all get the picture, and you realize that as Angelo Paterno wanted it, an impact has been made. And that impact has a lasting legacy. A legacy beyond accolades and buildings and endowments. It is in the people he reached, the people taught. Right now, I'd like for all the current and former football student athletes to stand for a moment, please. Wherever you are in the arena, I want you to stand. Stay standing, you're not sitting down yet. Your lives are his legacy. Your families, the people you reach, are his legacy. The grand experiment, success with honor, was a ripple that has grown to a tsunami washing across the world. My father used to quote Tennessee Williams, who said, "I knew no one was immortal, but I thought I was the exception." Well, Dad, through this legacy and the legacy of so many you have touched, you are the exception. As Joe would say, sit down now, sit down. Sit down. Joe's impact propelled all of us to success as fathers, husbands, mothers, wives on Main Street, on Wall Street. We've become doctors, coaches, lawyers, teachers, engineers, architects, and even Grammy-winning musicians like Mike Reed. By Joe's example, he has forwarded the torch of making impact. He and his wife have invested their money and their time to causes from Special Olympics to Dance Marathon, Penn State's Catholic Campus Ministry. That example has produced student-athlete graduates like Bill Spohr, a wide receiver in the late 1980s and early 90s. He and his wife now spend his time away from his job at Goldman Sachs, building schools in Uganda, all at his own expense. He's brought people to the United States to attend college. They return home to be an example to others back home and make an impact. The examples of philanthropy at Penn State are all around. From the football team's Live for Life, to Dance Marathon, to Special Olympics, and so many more, Penn State students each year raise millions of dollars to help others and to forward the idea of making impact. As we prepare to leave here today, we must continue to celebrate the life of Joe Paterno. Among the things he accomplished in his life, it was the games he won that counted the least. It was as a son to his parents, a husband to his wife, a father to his children, an uncle, a brother-in-law, and when what often seemed to be his crowning achievement in his life, as a grandfather to 17 grandchildren. But it went beyond that. He became a father, a coach, a mentor to countless others. Young men came from around this country, from different races, different creeds, socioeconomic backgrounds, and came to play football for him, but also to learn about life. His impact reached to men who worked for him, to Penn State students, to people he never met. One mourner told me Wednesday, he said, "You know, your family's not very good at math." He said, "Your father has millions of children and grandchildren." His impact reached not only the young men he coached,